Hello, good evening everyone. How is it going for everybody? This is Eunice Tan coming live from Singapore. Let me just check my audio.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Right, if you can hear me, type loud and clear in the comments box. Great to see you guys again. Great. Right. Right. Let us know where you are watching this from. Are you watching this from Singapore or outside Singapore? What is the time zone there? And where are you watching it from? If you're from outside Singapore, we'd like to know, make more friends beyond the Singapore shore. And if you're watching from Singapore, have you had your dinner or you're watching this, you're having your dinner, whatever it is, let us know what's going on. It's TGIF, right? We haven't seen each other for 2 weeks, right? So we are working on something very exciting and we'll bring it to you very soon. Right, my name is Eunice Tan and I'm an entrepreneur and speaker and the founder of Daily People Skills YouTube channel as well. Right, I've run my own business consultancy firm for the last 10 years and I started my business when I was 21, 20 years ago, right? And during my journey, I realized that a lot of people actually, they emphasize a lot of technical skills and, many other skills, but what they short of is one particular skills called people skills. And that's why this year I launched the YouTube channel called Daily People Skills to help and share my experience, my mistakes, that you can learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to make those and make your journey a little bit more smooth and less expensive as well. Yes. So like and share this video and then and on your newsfeed and all that. Right. I like to start my lessons on time, and we will just jump right into today's topic. Right. A lot of people think that people skills is all about EQ, communication skills, and leadership skills. All these are good, and all these are inclusive as well. But personally, I think people skills go much beyond that. And it's all about who you really are. Because at the end of the day, before you can manage others, you must first manage yourself. Right? Yes. So let's jump right into it. So a lot of my lessons, you will realize that it's a lot about yourself and improving yourself and how to be a better version of yourself, right? And once you can achieve that, once you become better, you'll find that people around you are better as well, and you're better in dealing with other people as well. Right. Let's jump right into today's topic, which is on making mistakes. Right. Let me see how many of you have made mistakes. Right. Usually in this, if it's a live session, I'll ask them to put up mistakes, right? And you will see the whole room will put up their mistakes. So I will either at this point, I will just say that either hey, you have made a mistake or you're a liar if you don't put up, right? We all have, yeah. We all have made mistakes, big or small. It's still a mistake, right? So myself included, tons of mistakes. Right. Have you ever wondered why is it that some people are so fearless and not worry about making mistakes? Or do they? What is it about some people that they somehow come out even better after making a mistake? I'm not talking about cover ups, but rather I'm talking about how some people can turn their mess into a message. And were you once upon a time someone who is so daring? The world is your oyster, and you're not afraid of making mistakes. And but you're no longer that kind of daring, bold person. What happened? Or do you think you are a mistake? Seriously, are mistakes so scary, or did we make them scary? So that's what we're going to explore today. Why are we afraid of making mistakes? Why are mistakes important? While how we respond to mistakes, and we're going to look at some examples of famous mistakes, and of course, quick tips on how to handle mistakes. Yes, okay, right. So let's get started. Now let me share my screen on my slides. That's right. Mistake is a love-hate relationship. Yes. So why are we so afraid of making mistakes? Right, couple of reasons, actually more than a couple. So we'll go one by one. The first and foremost is, hold on. Yes, that's right. Embarrassment. The fear of embarrassment. It is so prevalent. It is so domineering that You know, a lot of times we don't do something, we don't take action, or we're afraid of making mistakes. It's because we have this fear of being embarrassed. And everyone has this fear, right? We all do. And we make a mistake and people laugh at us. We don't like it, right? Nobody really like it, to be honest. Right? When you're young, when I was young, I was told to read in front of the class. I couldn't read very well. I don't know a lot of the words. I couldn't pronounce very well. And I was very shy. And it makes me, for the next few years, you know, I really find it very hard to speak in front of other people and read, actually, just about reading. Speaking, if I just, you know, just playing and fun and all that is fine. But to read, I couldn't read very well. So, you know, I always have this fear of being embarrassed. I was always afraid that the teacher will call me to read in front of the class because it's so embarrassing. I couldn't read the words. And some of them are such easy words that they, you know, they just assume a 6-year-old would know them, but I didn't know them, right? So, so this fear and embarrassment carry forward into our adult life a lot, and it's more ingrained than when we thought. If you think about it, a lot of things that we are afraid of, especially when it comes to making mistakes, is the embarrassment, right? We are so afraid of being embarrassed in front of others. Now, the second thing is, why are we afraid of making mistakes? Is we don't want to be seen as losers. Because people make mistakes are like, oh, you know, that person made a mistake and, you know, that is a loser. How can you make this kind of mistake? It's so obvious, right? Don't you use a brain and that kind of thing? Why are you so stupid? So, you know, we don't want to be seen as a loser, so as to speak. And loser is not a normal term. It's a common term in this century, in the last 10 years, 20 years, right? It's not a very nice term. That's why the more we are afraid of making mistakes. Next, is the society's intolerance of making mistakes, or the society's expectation to be perfect. We are always bombarded by media on being perfect. You cannot make mistakes. You know, when you are giving public speaking, right? You have to be perfect, and you know, you cross your T's, dot your I's, that kind of stuff. We have to be perfect, and you know, the models and the successful people, they never make mistakes. We have been bombarded by media on this image. And when someone makes a mistake, especially in this social media whereby, you know, news travels so fast, right? It's being shamed when someone makes a mistake. So when someone makes a mistake, it's all over media in a span of 5 minutes. It spread like fire. And it's only to find out later on that what you read in the media is only part of the story and not the full picture. So the person, as much as they don't want to explain themselves, they have to come out and explain it, that, you know, it's not the truth because it has been distorted. So we have this image that we have to be perfect, this image that we will be shamed when we make a mistake. So we are afraid to make mistakes. Yes. Next, we have this fear. Another fear, we have a lot of fear, okay, of the consequences. This is really a big one, right? When we make mistakes, we are afraid of, there's always a consequences into every action that we take or inaction that we take. And there is always a consequences to it. And we are sometimes afraid of the consequences, and we start thinking, what if? And in my other video, I talk about what if it can cut both ways. But we tend to cut into the negative ways rather than the positive ways, right? What if can turn out really bad, but what if it turn out turn out to be good? But we always going to turn to the negative side, which is what if it doesn't turn out to be expected? What if it doesn't turn out to be right? You know, what if I'm wrong? What if it turn out to be a disaster, right? And what if I'm rejected? Now, in this era, we do a lot of social media marketing, for example, right? I give you an example, which is social media marketing. And in social media marketing, in business context and company context, there's a lot of testing to be done because we really don't know some of the algorithm, or, you know, how is the market going to feedback, how are they going to respond and all that. So every time we make a tweet, we make some changes, is sometimes can be very scary because we don't know what are the consequences, and it would have a detrimental effect on sales and the KPIs and everything, right? And in turn, right, it stifles many different kind of creativity, and people stop being creative, stop daring, stop being testing, test the water, push the envelopes, because they are afraid that what if it doesn't work, and then hits the roll, right? Okay, that's a very common thing that somebody has to be accountable for it, and somebody take responsibility for it and all, right? So we are very afraid of the consequences, and what if I lost my job because of this, right? Now, another example, common example is in a company meeting, right? People are afraid to speak up or share their opinion because what if people think you are weird, or you have another different opinion from what the most of the people think in most of the people in the room are thinking of. And if you are going to speak up and say no, I don't think this is true, and what if you turn out to be they are right and you are wrong, right? And this is again back to embarrassment, but also the consequences of being called like you are weird, you are a loser, you're stupid, you're rubbish, and all those things. So the consequences can be very dire. And another example is like sharing a joke, right? I'm not sure if you sometimes you think you want to respond with a funny remark, and you say that but you think go ahead, and because you are not sure if the other party is going to find it funny. Okay, sometimes I'm like that as well. I don't know how is the other person going to take it. Would the person be offended and all that, and be angry and all, and only to find out later on, right? The person himself said the joke that you wanted to make and make fun of his own self. Right, so we are very afraid of the consequences, and we tend to think of what if the negative things happen, right? And also the other fear that is very common is the fear of disappointing someone, right? With that, as you can see, right, as the factors as I go through the reasons why we are afraid, you will see that it actually builds up. So this one, and if you look at the previous reasons I've covered, and all this will build up of this fear of disappointing someone, right? And you do something, and you take the risk, and you do something, and then it turned out to be wrong, and someone looked at you and be disappointed in you because the result was not good, and it didn't turn out the way people wanted, and that person is disappointing, is disappointed at you. So the kind of fear or disappointing someone, letting someone down, is something that we don't want, especially if the person is very dear to us, someone we love, someone we respect a lot. So it's we really don't want to disappoint people, right? And it's that, especially give you some examples, like for example, a student choosing a subject to major in, right? Instead, so some of the very commonly in the last year of a university or college or whatever it is in your country, you usually in the last year you have to major and specialize in something, right? And many of the students want to choose something that is mainstream, want to choose something that is very safe, this lawyers and doctors and accountants, architects, that kind of play safe subjects, right? And okay, by the way, I didn't choose law because I play safe, right? It's not. I choose law because I choose to. Okay, so there's a minority of us who have the guts enough to choose the subject that we want to. Now, but most of the students, they choose subject because to major in, they choose go by play safe, a very safe option, rather than choosing something that they want and they are passionate in. So if, for example, a student is interested in art and music, those kind of that you cannot make a living, that you cannot make big money next time, what are you going to do with your future next time? So instead, and even though the student may be very confident of his or her talent, but they didn't want to disappoint somebody, their parents and all that. So they choose a subject that is safe. They will be sure to find a job. They will not be they don't have to worry about making a living kind of thing. So they are afraid that what if they are wrong and the parents are correct, and they can't make a living out of the subject that they choose, and they don't want to disappoint the parents, right? So this is quite a common scenario, common thing that is going on with our youngsters these days. And when they graduate and they're working adults choosing a career path, or they start their own business, they are very afraid of making the mistakes because they don't want to disappoint somebody. And what if I'm wrong? Okay, again, the fear of what if comes in, right? And we'll talk about how we respond to mistakes in a minute, right? Later on, right? So let's move on to the next one. Uh, Society's exclusion. Yes, this is a big one, right? Just now we talk about society's expectation to be perfect and intolerance of mistakes, so as to speak, right? This society's exclusion I'm talking about is really you make a mistake and society as a whole or general whole exclude you or you are being excluded by majority of people. And one common example, of course, is like people make a mistake and they go to prison for it, right? And I'm serving the prison ministry with church, and we see a lot of this kind of cases. And even before I serve with the prison ministry, I've come across people who are who served prison sentence before, and they have finished their sentencing, and they're trying to turn over a new leaf. They're trying to learn from their mistakes. They have learned, in fact, their mistakes. They know they were wrong, right? And but the way the society look at them is just so it's just so sad, really. And when people hear that they were in prison and before, and they look at them with a different set of eyes, right? And it's that kind of exclusion, the kind of like, oh, you are not one of us kind. It can be very damaging to a person's soul. It can be very damaging to anybody who has a bit of humanity inside them. It's really, really hard. It's as though you have a disease, we can't, don't come near me, that kind of stuff. That kind of society's exclusion is really, really very scary, and it can be very it can really drive someone into depression. So the thought of if I make a mistake and that is my consequences, the society's exclusion will make me not wanting to take risks, not wanting to be creative. So I will play safe, right? And because of this society's exclusion, I am afraid that I will make mistakes. So I will just do whatever that people tell me to, so that hey, when people ask, I say I'm just doing what I'm being told, right? So this as society's exclusion, right, is very, very prevalent. Actually, it goes a lot ingrained than it appears to be. So just be very aware of that, and whether you are afraid of making mistakes because of this is very, very damaging. Seriously, I've met people who have gone into depression and commit attempt suicide because of that. And but of course, on the bright side, on the a bit of upbeat side, I've seen people who turn this around and become bigger and stronger person, and they use their stories they use their mistakes to educate people and reach out to people, teach the youth or society as a whole, how don't how teach them how not to make the mistakes like them, and how what not to learn from them. So we can turn into a positive message as well. We'll talk about how we respond to mistakes, which is very important later on. Yes. So next reason why we are afraid of making mistakes is sometimes we are trying to please people. Okay, because you want to please everybody, and so you are afraid if you make a mistake, somebody will be unhappy, right? And so you do what people want and not what should be done. So sometimes you just, whatever people tell you, you just go and do it. And but deep inside, you don't want to do it. And sometimes people, you know something is not quite right, and you still do it. And you know that later on things will go south, turn south. Things are not going to work out well. And but you still do it, and sometimes you take the fall and all. So trying to please everyone is something that is in a way we don't want to I'm not saying that antagonize people, right? But I'm just saying that this phenomenon of trying to please someone is very damaging as well, and You will see that this appear in many of my videos because of this factor. There are many things that we do that is detrimental to us, that is not beneficial to us, and this is one of them. Is that it causes us to be afraid to make mistakes. We don't want to offend anybody, right? And this point is a little bit special at this point of time because trying to please everybody is a bit of both a cause of making mistakes, afraid of making mistakes. It is also a consequences of making a mistake in that sense. Why do I say that? Because for some of you, right, it's the other way around, right? Because you are afraid to make mistakes, you then try to please everyone. Yes, let that sink in for a little while, right? Because some things are taught, some things are caught. So because you are afraid to make mistakes, you then try to please everybody. And whatever everybody says, you just do it. Yes. So just let it sink in for a while. We'll talk about this more in another video, right? But I want to move on to the next segment, which is actually on why are mistakes important? Now, mistakes are extremely important in our life because we learn and gain experience, right? And it reminds me of this particular story that people that I when I read it, and it really blew my mind, and I always remember this simple yet powerful story. So there was an interview between a journalist and a savvy, well-known investors, and the journalist was asking the investor, hey, wow, you have the Midas touch, you have the prosperity touch, everything you touch prosper, and the journalist was asking the investor, how do you make such great investment decisions, investments? And the investor was saying that, well, by making good investment. And the journalist is like, inside the heart was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. But the question then is, how do you make good investment? And the investor, and just say it's easy by making bad investment. Yes. So sometimes that's the thing. Sometimes we are so afraid of making mistakes. We just don't make decisions, and we just stay on the fence, and we don't move forward. But do you know that there's no such thing as we stay stagnant? When you don't move forward, you are actually staying behind. You are doing left behind, right? You are actually you're just being left behind. It's not that you don't stay safe by not moving forward with the rest. So you really need to know, have the bonus to go and just do it. Of course, do your research, do your sums and everything, whatever you need to do, and then after that, go ahead and just take the action, and don't be afraid to make the mistakes. Yes. So how do you make great investment? By making good investment decisions. And how do you make good investment decisions? By making bad investment decisions, right? So which actually brings me to the next very, very important part. This is the pinnacle of this today's lesson. You must know this, right? So it's how we respond to mistakes are just as important, if not more, than as the mistakes themselves, right? So it's just like the story I just shared between the journalist and the savvy investors. What the savvy investor has done is that he responded to mistakes in a positive way, right? And we learn, and so how do we respond to mistakes will determine, right? Really determine how we are going to move forward later on, right? You can respond it in a couple of ways. Really, just two ways really. The first one is you can learn to grow, okay? And you can learn and grow, and you form a positive lesson out from your mistake, and you learn from there. You get a lesson out of your mistake, and from there it teaches us to be resilient and stronger. We come up a stronger and better person. You know the saying, right? What doesn't kill you make you stronger. Yes, it is really, really true, right? And also another thing is that it also teaches how to take calculated risks. And risks are inevitable in our life. Every day we are taking risks. Even by just walking on the road and crossing the road, driving and taking transport, taking the plane, taking a cruise. I know the death rate is very, very low, but you know, everything is we are taking risks every day in our life. Even sitting on the chair is taking a risk. It's just a matter of how much risk is it? Is it a small or big one? Is it just if it happens, is it a life threatening or not? Right? And so, but then in other areas where it's a little bit not so clear, we take calculated risks. We know how much can we absorb, and we know how much can we sacrifice if something goes wrong, right? So that is the way to move forward, and in life especially, and in work, in every area of your life. Yes. So how we respond is really, really very important. And also, if we don't respond in a positive way, of course, then we learn. We learn in a negative way. So we learn and retreat. If we don't learn to grow, we learn and retreat. What do I mean? We draw back. Okay, we form a negative lesson, and we form a negative lesson, and we learn to play safe. And the negative story teaches us to be fearful, to be defensive, to go with the crowd. And you know, and also another thing, you know, it could teach us is that don't stand out, right? Because usually people who take risks and take actions and make a mistake, sometimes it's slightly because they do things a little bit different, right? They don't go with the herd, they don't go with the crowd. And so, you know, if you make a mistake and you draw a negative lesson, you can say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to stand out next time. I'm going to keep quiet. I'm just going to follow what people say, do what I've been instructed to, even though, you know, I think I have a better way and all those things. I just stay in the background. I just keep quiet so that I don't make a mistake. This is playing safe. It's not going to help you at work or in life. Yes? Right? Right. Don't stand up. Yeah? Okay. So let's look at some of the examples of famous mistakes. Okay. This is so great. You guys, after this, right, you guys should go and Google for famous mistakes, famous marketing mistakes, famous personality that have been mistaken as not good. So many of them, right? And you know, some of the well-known celebrities we know now were actually told that you couldn't make it, you're not TV material, you're not celebrity material, you can't sing, you can't act. You know, Michael Jordan was told when he was in school he cannot play basketball. But hey, you know what? Maybe he can't play basketball in school, but he played basketball on the international platform, right? So let's look at some of the examples of famous mistakes. And some of you may know some of them, and some of you may be surprised by this famous mistakes, right? You may not be aware it was a mistake, and you see this every day of your life. Now, first up, post-it notes. Yes, post-it notes, something that we use every day. It's so unassuming, it's so useful, it's so functional. You can't live without post-it note, right? We use it to write, to pass a message, to remind someone, to remind ourselves. You know, we even write love notes to our loved ones or someone we are important. And in a team building, we always tell people, oh, write little notes to people, you know, that kind of stuff. So post-it note is so useful, it's so practical, it's so functional. But do you know it was actually a mistake, so as to speak. So according to the website, right, the 3M scientist, Dr. Spencer Silver, was doing research on strong adhesives when he came across quite the opposite, that one that stuck lightly to surfaces but didn't bond tightly to them. So this doctor, right, was started off by, he was finding something adhesive, a glue, a kind of glue that can stuck tightly to something, right? But this adhesive that he found, somehow it stuck lightly, but it didn't bond tightly to them, right? So this doctor initially had no idea what to do with his discovery. But years later, with another 3M scientist, Art Fry, came to him with the idea to create a bookmark. A bookmark. It was meant to be a bookmark that could stick to paper without damaging it. And eventually that bookmark became the post-it note that we know nowadays. It's so amazing, right? Okay, so don't underestimate your mistakes that you have made. It might really turn out to be something beautiful and useful. Next up, potato chips. Right. It's so, this is so funny to me. And when I first found this, and I love potato chips. It's a comfort food to me, and a comfort food to many of my friends as well. And many of us love this. But do you know how it come about? Right? It's really accidental. It was something that was so-called turned wrong, or and all that. So let me tell you the story. So one of Americans' most popular snack food is the potato chips, right? It's invented in 1953 by George Crumb. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. He's a chef at the Moon Lake Lodge Resort in Saratoga Lake in New York. And one of his customers complained that their French fried potatoes were too thick and mushy. As legend has it, Speck's solution was to thinly slice and fry some potatoes until brown, and the patrons loved what was to become the first ever batch of potato chips. Can you imagine that, right? It's out of spite, the chef has thinly sliced it. It's supposed to be thick, but this chef had thinly sliced it and then make it and fried it and became popular and became a billion-dollar industry in these days. I can finish a bag of potato chips myself. So it's just so amazing, and it's an everlasting love of many people I know of. Right. Third story, Coca-Cola. How can we talk about mistakes without mentioning Coca-Cola? The famous mistakes that that people didn't realize is actually a mistake. People thought the inventor, it was, they intentionally invented this drink, not knowing that in actual fact it was not. They didn't want. It's not like they want to invent a drink that can sell for and build a billion-dollar industry out of it, right? Okay, so the man who created the syrup for Coca-Cola was not a chef. He's not even in the food industry. Or rather, the soda's inventor was a pharmacist by the name of Dr. John Bell Pemberton, right? Again, pardon me if I pronounce it wrongly. I told you I can't really read and pronounce, right? Okay, so who was seeking to create a cocaine and caffeine-filled alcoholic drink? Imagine that, cocaine and caffeine-filled alcoholic drink that people with chemical addictions to drugs, including himself, could use to wean off morphine and other drugs. However, when prohibition hit, doctor was forced to take the alcohol out of his formula. Though the cocaine remained for decades. Oh my goodness, the cocaine was in it. Oh, and thus the first bottle of Coca-Cola was made in 1886. So you imagine that it wasn't supposed to be a soda drink. It was supposed to alcoholic drink that helped people to wean off their drug addiction, right? I know some of you are disappointed. You wanted the first version better, right? Okay, but how nobody expected with the new formula, without the alcohol and everything else, it became the Coca-Cola that we know of today. It became a multi-billion dollars, maybe even trillion. And it's a listed, it's part of the one of the product in the listed company. And even Warren Buffett invested in the company. And it's something that has been around for what, 100 years? And I think it's going to be around for another 100 years at least. Right? It's something that we all crave somehow especially when the weather is cold, and we just love, having a Coke with a bottle of Coca-Cola with ice, and my mouth is watering now. Okay, so these are some of the examples of famous mistakes that we can Google, and famous, very popular ones. And there were others as well. So let me give you a very quick rundown. Do you know the microwave is also a mistake? The chocolate chip cookies are also mistake. The X-ray machine, oh my goodness, can you imagine today without the X-ray machine? It was actually a mistake as well. Champagne, another drink, is also a mistake. And it was almost, people wanted to X the drink, but somehow it became popular. So you can find out, or you can Google and find out all these stories, and it's actually quite an amazing journey that these products have come along, and it's actually quite inspiring, And if they can have that kind of mistake and turn around, I don't think my mistake is that bad. Yeah, and you will find hope and inspiration that the mistakes you make can be turned around. And also you don't have to, something good can always come out from something bad. Yeah, that's what I always believe, because even if you can if not anything, you can always turn it into a lesson what not to do. Yes, right. So let's look at the how to, some quick tips on how to see mistakes. And if you take note, right, I titled this segment on the better way to see mistakes, right? Okay, so if and not, I didn't title it the right way to see mistakes, right? Yeah, not pun, not intended, right? But because seriously, there's not really a right. Most of the time, there's no right or wrong. There's only pros and cons. There's the only different perspectives. Very few things are absolutely right or absolutely wrong, right? Even if murdering somebody, right? And when I was doing litigation law, I used to see things in absolute black and white, and I have very little gray areas. And somebody close by point out to me before, sometimes things in life is not always black and white. I didn't believe that then, but as time as years pass, right, 1 year older, 1 year wiser, I realized that, seriously, there's no absolute black or white. There's my gray zone become a bit greater and wider, and I begin to see there are always different perspectives that we're not aware of, even for murder, right? And we have a very famous litigation murder defense lawyers in Singapore, and he said one thing that is, in the spirit of litigation, that even the most hideous offenders deserve a fair treatment, right? And the eye of the law. So yes, even when you make mistakes, you still deserve the fair treatment. You still deserve to go through the process and deserve to have your side of your story being told. So I have learned that sometimes it's really no right or wrong, but there's a better way. Okay, and maybe it's the form of a different perspective, right? So you can see it better in the sense that it's more constructive, right? And it helps you to be a better person, right? Let's take a look. What are these better ways, right? First and foremost, acknowledge that it's part of life. Mistakes are part of life. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Yes, you cannot go through life without not making mistakes. I think there are some movies that are going on, or in the past they have short movies about, people are play safe, and I remember one movie they placed the son in a bubble wrap and so will not get hurt. And they will have many other movies whereby people are put in a bubble in a false world, and so that you don't make mistakes. But you know what? Mistakes are part of life. And mistakes can be beautiful as well. Mistakes can be useful. Mistakes can be helpful and inspiration to others as well, right? And the second way of looking at mistakes is to learn. Treat it as a learning experience. It's an opportunity to learn. And I always say that it's just like a baby learning how to walk, right? The baby, when a newborn baby just learning how to walk. You think we all born and we learn you know how to walk? You didn't, neither did I. We all learn how to walk. And during the learning stage, we fell, right? A baby fall. And do you go and tell the baby, excuse me, baby, I don't think you can walk. You are destined to walk. You don't, you will never learn how to walk. That kind of thing, you give up. No, you don't. You don't tell that to a baby. Why are you saying that to yourself? Because you don't say that to a baby, because falling is part of the growing up. It's part of the building of the muscles, part of the neural experience that sending the message to the brain on how you can do it better next time. So always remember, whenever you can come to mistakes, right? Always remember, remind yourself, how does a baby learn how to walk? And always remain in that kind of mentality that sometimes you just learn how to be a better person after that. Turn it around, right? Which actually brings me to the next few points. The third point is be mindful of the story that you form from the mistake, right? And we mentioned this. Are you forming a positive lesson, a positive story, a positive experience, or are you forming a negative story, negative experience, and you are not good enough and all those things, right? Or you can use these mistakes and say that, okay, I'm going to learn from this. What did I learn? Oh, I was not detailed enough. Maybe I was I didn't consider all perspectives. Maybe I did not think of other people. What is a better way to put it to deliver this project, this message, or whatsoever, or how does other people do it and which I did not do. So you can turn your mistake into a positive story. So be mindful of the story that you form, and it's not the negative one. Is like, I'm not good enough, I'm rubbish, I can never do this, I'm not a good leader, I'm not going to take on any more leadership role. No, you're not. Okay, right? Don't do that. So do the positive story thing. Yeah. Next, number 4 is to reveal our blind spots. When you make mistakes, treat it as an opportunity to reveal your blind spots. Just the previous point I mentioned, right? Maybe we did, the lesson I learned is that I did not look at different perspectives. I overlooked on this thing. I thought it's not important, but I did. So I didn't look at it. And actually, it is an important part of the chain, part of the process. So you reveal our blind spot. How come I never thought about that? Well, next time you will, right? This is how people improve. Yeah, the CEO of the company doesn't rise to the CEO position overnight, right? If you look at it, most of the CEOs are of a certain age. Why? Because they started from entry level like everybody else, and they gain experience, and they learn, and they climb the ladder, and they become better, become a better follower, become a better leader, become a better manager, project manage, or people person. Yeah, they learn. They also learn that where are their blind spots. Yes, right. Number 5. Okay, so you do after you make, in the event you make a mistake, we just said, right, it's part of our life, we are bound to make mistakes. Then do a diagnosis and autopsy of the what went wrong, of where went wrong rather. Okay, and sorry, a big hand there, right? So when you do a diagnosis of where went wrong, right? Notice I emphasize on where, right? Look at it, whether is it a competence issue, or is it a mindset issue, or is it a emotional issues or people issue, right? Find out the root problem, and not just resolve on the superficial level, right? So for example, and just now I mentioned, right, maybe you make a mistake on, you overlook certain things, or you have a team member who tend to overlook things and not detailed enough. And but the thing is that this person maybe just simply doesn't it could be the person overloaded, or it could be the person just not very good at organizing her schedule, right? And so if you keep resolving the problem on the superficial level, it will happen again. I remember there was a team member, or rather, let me use my own self as an example, right? I remember when one of my first marketing, my first office job, it was as a marketing executive, or coordinator actually. So I'm supposed to coordinate a lot of things, but I was very young. It was my first office job. I didn't know, a lot of things. I have to look at a lot of things, and there was not a lot of automation. A lot of things are manual. I have to inform I do one thing, and then I have to inform like three different departments, and miss out one department and all, and things go haywire, and they look, and they keep emphasizing, they keep on the tactical level and all. But until one day, the manager who was very, very good, he came to me and said that, do you know what's the root problem? And he was saying, and I'm like, no, can you tell me? And he was very firm, but very nice. He was trying to teach me, right? And he was telling me, the root problem is that you don't understand the whole process. You don't understand the whole concept. You don't understand what is the objective that we are trying to achieve. You don't know what is the outcome we want to achieve. So you're just doing like blindly what you have been told, and you are just following instructions to the best that you can, right? But you need to understand, besides all these are important, right? But you must understand the why are we doing all these things. Do you know why? And I look at, no, actually, I never thought about it. Why? I never thought about the outcome the company wants to achieve, the department wants to achieve. I never thought of, hey, you know what? Why are we doing all these marketing campaigns and all? And once he's mentioned that, and he pointed out my blind spot, right? And you know what? Things just change. I don't even need to people don't have to chase me things. You know, I become more detailed. I become more organized naturally. And even if I'm not, I will think of ways to help myself to remember. And the amazing things, I can even go one step further and think of and anticipate what might go wrong. And everyone was like, what happened to you? Suddenly, your brain is start working again. Right. So instead of resolve things on a superficial level, really go deeper and see what is the issue. And usually it falls into these 4 categories: competence, mindset, emotional, or people issue. Right. So look at this. And when you can tackle it at the root problem, you can be guaranteed, right? The mistake will almost 99% resolve. Right. Okay. Right. Next, we have number 6. Okay. Take personal responsibility of that was number 5. Diagnosis of where went wrong, the solve the root problem, and number 6 is take personal responsibility but not beat yourself up. Right? There's a difference in that, in the sense that what's the difference? You separate what you did from who you are. Okay, what you do is what you do, and who you are is who you are. Okay, and you made a mistake, yes, and that was what you did, but it's not. It doesn't speak of who you are. Your identity is still who you are. Don't say things like I'm rubbish and I'm stupid. No, you did not. It's just the action that it was not well thought through. That's all, right? You need to do that because because if not, once you mix the two together and you start to saying I am stupid, I am rubbish, and I tell you, it becomes your identity at some point, and all the things you're going to make more mistakes, and it's going to be a downward spiral. So don't do that. Okay, separate what you did from who you are. This is something that is repeated in many of my videos because it is the root of everything, right? Okay, I like to go to the root of the problem and root of the cause, root of the thing, root of the happiness and all that. So, don't tackle on the superficial level. Next, number 7, you review our priorities, right? So when you make a mistake, right, how do you say it? You can take this opportunity to review your priorities and see whether you need to make any changes, shift anything in your life. So for example, when I had my accident in UK, I got knocked down by a bus. I broke my legs and all, and things. It was partly by mistake as well because I guess I wasn't careful up to today. I don't know what happened, but it doesn't matter. But that 2 months of bedridden in the hospital, I had 4 operations. Within 2 weeks, I had to learn how to walk all over again, and I was on a wheelchair, and after that, the physical recovery was a little bit faster, but the emotional side was it kicked in later on, and I couldn't sleep. They gave me sleeping pills. I suffered from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and they gave me antidepressants, right? But during that period of not being able to do anything, I started to review actually what was my priority, right? And what is really, really important to me in that sense. And it really made me feel that start to looking at things very, very differently. And of course, another incident is when my dad is passing on, and it really made me shift my priority as well. That hey, sometimes a lot of the things that we think that is important are not that important. A lot of things that we think are not important, it turned out to be something that holds a very special heart in our hearts. So these days, right, I always ask myself, Is this going to, whatever I do or not do, is this going to kill somebody? Is this going to hurt somebody, cause damage to somebody? Is it going to help to make more money? Is it going to lose money? If it's not, then just let it go, right? I mean, if it's a bit of a mess, forget it, right? It's not going to kill anyone or hurt. Nobody's going to get damaged from there, right? Just let it go, right? So you can take this opportunity of looking at when you make a mistake, start reviewing your priorities as well, right? Another way of looking at mistakes is to see that mistakes are there as opportunities to teach us about humility, and to realize that we are not know it all. We don't know everything. The world is so big. How can you know everything? And I know when you were young, the world is your oyster. You know everything, and I was like that as well. I used to be known as a Miss Know It All. I have to have the last word. I know everything. If I don't know, I have to go and find out. Now, it's good. It's still a good trait. I still want to find out a lot of things. But I have come to the stage where, you learn to be humble, and you learn that you don't know everything, right? And I don't know everything. I'm learning every day. There's always something new to learn every day, and I'm always telling everybody around me this until they like, yes, we know, it's ingrained in us. Yeah. So mistakes are really there to teach us humility as well. Now, last point I want to mention about the better way to see mistakes, which is the most important of all, is learn to forgive. Forgive yourself and forgive others. And I know this is definitely easier said than done. It took me a while as well, and I used to be a very unforgiving person, and sometimes it still take me a while to do that, right? But I'm improving every day. Like I mentioned, sometimes it's just improving every day, and in many of my videos, I always share this, right? Focus on progression, not perfection. So every day, I'm just learning how to be better person, how to forgive myself and others, and very often some of us it's easier for us to forgive others. Some of us is easier for us to forgive our own self, right? I tend to have difficulties to forgive myself. So yeah, I'm still learning. Yeah, every day we learn just a little bit more. I just need to be 1% better than yesterday. Another mantra that I always say every day, right? Okay, so right, so that's all I have for today. I trust that you have learned something, at least one thing today, and internalize those quick tips. Internalize them, apply and learn. Don't just learn, apply. Okay, you will reach your destination at some point. And many people have asked me, why am I speaking and doing training on a topic on people skills? It's like it falls in the same category of telling people to eat more fruits and vegetables, drink more water, and do more exercise. And people know that these are good for them, yet they do not want to do it for many, many different reasons. Now, it's because I totally believe that people skills is a very practical skill set. And I totally believe that it's a skill set everybody really need to have. I know, because I know many of you are concerned about being replaced by technology and artificial intelligence, right? I totally believe that people skill is one skill set that will never be replaced by technology or AI. You can learn about coding, cyber security, and all these are good, but these are technical skills that will get obsolete, and you will have to keep improving yourself in this area. Just think about it. The technical skills you had 5 years ago may not be applicable today now, right? And yes, they are important. I'm not knocking them down. But behind every hardware, software, equipment, machines, even cameras like this, there's a human being behind it, right? This is what keeps me going, because I know behind every camera, there is one person watching, learning, and needing this message. It doesn't matter what business or what industry are you in, you are always dealing with people. So you might as well start learning how to deal with people. And the first person to deal with is yourself, right? So like, share, subscribe, follow us in this journey of improving yourself, right? We have our Facebook page and YouTube. Do follow and subscribe us, and so that you will be notified. And yes, keep the notification bell on, and we'll see you in our next video. And until then, take care. Bye.